In every corporate office, there are those who go unnoticed. Their work dismissed and their actions undervalued. They move quietly in the background, performing tasks that others are too proud to acknowledge. These are the ones who keep the wheels of the company turning without ever being credited for it. Meet Marcus, just another janitor at Hawthorne and Beck, a towering presence in the heart of Dallas. To the powerful executives who control the company, Marcus is invisible, nothing more than a lowly worker who sweeps the floors, empties the trash, and does the menial jobs no one else wants to do. But what they don't know is that Marcus isn't just cleaning up after them. He's been silently witnessing their every move, their every decision, their every misstep. And behind his unassuming uniform, there's a powerful secret that could shake this company to its very core. The truth is, Marcus isn't who they think he is. What they've overlooked, the very man they've ignored for so long, has the ability to bring their empire crashing down. If you believe everyone should be treated with due respect and never be overlooked, hit the subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments below. As he walks through the glass doors of Hawthorne and Beck each morning, Marcus pushes his cleaning cart through the pristine halls. His uniform is simple, dusty gray coveralls, a faded cap. But the way he moves through the office is deliberate, as if he's seen it all before, as if he knows exactly where every crack in the system lies. He knows which executives are having the hush-hush meetings in the corner offices, which deals are being made behind closed doors, and which employees are silently suffering under the weight of the company's greed. The executives breeze past him without a second glance. Some don't even bother to hide their disdain. They barely acknowledge his existence. To them, he's just a janitor, a mere cog in the machine that keeps their corporate empire running smoothly. When they do look at him, it's with an air of indifference, a silent judgment as if his role has no real importance. They laugh as they pass him by, making their little jokes about how the hell keeps the building clean. But Marcus isn't fooled. He's heard it all before. The whispers behind his back, the cruel remarks, the endless underestimation. They see him as invisible, just another nameless face in the background. A worker who's disposable, easily replaced. But what they don't realize is that Marcus has been watching them for years, watching their every move. He's witnessed the backdoor deals, the unethical business practices, the mistreatment of employees who make the company what it is. He's seen the board members leave the office for their high-end lunches, while the lower-level staff stay behind to clean up their mess. He's overheard their private conversations, the ones where they mock the people they claim to lead, belittling their efforts, their struggles, their worth. The execs walk through the halls with their suits, their polished shoes, their inflated egos, all the while acting as though they are untouchable, beyond reproach. But Marcus isn't just cleaning the floors. He's been cleaning up a system that's deeply flawed. He's been a silent observer, watching as the corruption festers in every corner of the office, seeing how the company's leaders play their games with no regard for the human cost. He's seen the company's top executives cut corners to increase their profits, disregarding the well-being of the employees below them. He's witnessed the toxic leadership of CEO Gerald Harris, whose decisions have only widened the divide between the haves and the have-nots. The ones who sit in plush offices, and the ones who spend their days scrubbing and mopping the same floors. He's seen the systemic racism woven into the very fabric of the company. The way minority employees are passed over for promotions, the way they are given the most menial tasks, the way their voices are silenced in meetings. Marcus has watched it all, and though he's remained quiet, a part of him has been taking notes, gathering evidence, quietly biding his time. After all, silence has been his shield, and observation, his power. For years, he's watched this company flourish at the expense of its employees, at the expense of the ones who've kept the lights on, the ones who've mopped the floors and emptied the trash while the executives celebrated their bonuses and closed deals. But Marcus knows one thing: everything has a breaking point. The system they've built may seem unshakable, but Marcus is about to prove that even the most invisible among us can be a force to reckon with. While Marcus goes about his daily routine, pushing his cleaning cart through the office corridors, something shifts in the air. It's subtle at first, The low murmur of voices in distant rooms, the clinking of coffee cups, the rustling of papers. But for Marcus, these sounds aren't just noise. They're the soundtrack of a company rotting from the inside out. He's always been a quiet observer, never drawing attention to himself, never rocking the boat. But as the days pass, the whispers grow louder, more revealing. He's in the executive wing now, methodically wiping down the polished surfaces of the boardroom table, moving along the edges of the room as if he's just another shadow. And yet, he hears everything. The executives speak like they're untouchable, their conversations laced with arrogance, their words dripping with entitlement. They discuss their latest mergers, their stock market deals, and the lavish bonuses they are going to receive while the rest of the company scrambles to keep up. They mock the employees who work under them, laughing as they call them lazy or incompetent. "I can't believe they actually think they deserve raises," one of the executives scoffs, flipping through a stack of paperwork. "They don't realize how replaceable they are. Half of them can't even do basic tasks without making a mess." Another executive joins in, the sound of her heels clicking sharply as she walks past Marcus, her voice cutting through the air like a blade. "Exactly. And don't get me started on the janitors. They are the last ones to get a raise, and they are lucky to have a job at all. It's not like anyone notices them anyway." Marcus's grip tightens around the cleaning cloth, but he doesn't react. He's been here before, silent, unseen, nothing more than a background figure. These words, these dismissive remarks, are nothing new. But something is different now. The cracks in the system have grown too wide to ignore, and Marcus can feel it in his bones. As he moves through the building, he overhears more conversations, each one a punch to the gut. The CEO, Gerald Harris, is at the center of it all, a puppet master pulling strings from behind his polished desk. The decisions made in his office are shaping the fate of so many people, and it's all about money. People are expendable. The ones at the top get richer while those at the bottom work harder and harder, barely making ends meet. He pauses outside Harris's office, cleaning supplies in hand, but his mind is elsewhere. The voices inside the office are clearer now, piercing through the walls, too loud to ignore. Marcus moves closer, drawn by a sense of something important, something that feels like it could finally be the breaking point. "I can't believe they actually made him the manager," Harris chuckles, his voice oozing with disdain. "That guy is useless. But I suppose if we keep him around long enough, we can get rid of him when the time is right." A second voice joins in, low and condescending. "I hear they are already planning his layoff. It's just a matter of time. It'll save us a ton of money. It's not like anyone's going to care." Marcus stops in his tracks, his heart pounding in his chest. The words echo in his mind like a drumbeat, each syllable sharper than the last. The man they are talking about is just another victim of this ruthless corporate machine. And Marcus knows, deep down, that this could be anyone. It could be him next. But what really sets him off is the next sentence, the one that cracks his resolve. "You know," Harris says with a cruel laugh, "it's easy to fire someone when no one even notices they are gone. No one cares about the janitors. No one cares about the little people. We could lay off half the staff and no one would blink an eye." Marcus's hands shake as he grips the cat. It's a cold, sharp realization. This isn't just about profit. This is about treating people like they don't matter, about playing with lives as if they were disposable. The very people who work the hardest, the ones who make the office run smoothly, are being mocked and ignored. His patience has worn thin. For too long, he's kept his silence, choosing to observe, to let the world move around him as he cleaned the messes others made. But this is different. This conversation, this mockery of people who work tirelessly to keep the company afloat, is a final straw. Marcus takes a deep breath, the weight of the moment heavy on his shoulders. He knows he holds the power. He knows the truth that no one else in this building knows. But until now, he's kept it hidden. He's been the invisible janitor, the quiet observer, the silent witness to a system so broken that it's almost too difficult to confront. But now, hearing those words, feeling the anger rise within him, Marcus realizes that it's time to act. He can't stay silent anymore. Not when lives are being ruined by the very people who claim to lead them. Not when his own dignity, his own worth, is being trampled by those who have everything and think they deserve more. This is the turning point. The moment everything changes. Marcus knows it, and the moment he steps into the boardroom, armed with the truth in his power, the world will never be the same. Marcus sits alone in his small, modest apartment, the hum of the city barely audible through the thin walls. The room is quiet, save for the occasional rustle of paper as Marcus sifts through a stack of old documents on his kitchen table. There's no sound of bustling executives here, no oppressive corporate pressure. Just him, the past, and a legacy that is kept hidden for far too long. The papers in front of him are a tangled mess of business records, stock reports, and faded documents, papers that once belonged to his late father. His father, a quiet man who had always been an enigma, never talked much about his work. But Marcus now sees the depth of his father's foresight. There, amidst the financial ledgers and old tax returns, Marcus stumbles upon something he's never truly understood until now: the founding papers of Hawthorne and Beck. It's like the pieces of a puzzle finally begin to fit together, a moment of clarity he's been waiting for. The documents detail his father's early investments in the company, before the executives in their expensive suits even knew what the company could become. His father had seen something in Hawthorne and Beck long before it became the giant it is now. In those papers, Marcus finds the evidence that his father wasn't just an investor. He was a key player in the company's birth. And, hidden in plain sight, is the truth. Marcus is a majority shareholder of Hawthorne and Beck. A chill runs through him as he rereads the document. It's a revelation, a quiet storm brewing in the back of his mind. He's not just a janitor. He's not just an invisible man cleaning up the messes of others. He has the power to change the course of the company, to confront the very people who disregarded him, who trampled over the lives of others with their toxic corporate culture. Marcus leans back in his chair, the weight of the truth settling heavily on his chest. The man who once saw his father as nothing more than a silent figure in the background had been wrong. His father had built something, and now, that legacy, his legacy, was Marcus's to carry forward. He looks down at the papers, his fingers tracing the bold signature at the bottom of the founding documents. The ink faded but the meaning clear. "This is mine," he whispers, a mix of disbelief and determination flooding through him. "I'm the one in control now." As he sits there in the dim light, the enormity of his discovery begins to sink in. Marcus's mind races. All this time, he's been silent, simply watching as a company moved forward, as executives lined their pockets, and as employees like him were dismissed and overlooked. He'd kept quiet because he didn't feel like he belonged in their world. But now, he knows he doesn't have to belong. He's always belonged to something far more powerful, the legacy of his father, the majority shareholder, the one who owns the company. And with that knowledge, a new realization hits him like a thunderclap. His silence was no longer an option. He can no longer stand by as the corrupt executives mock, belittle, and fire employees without cause. He's seen enough. He's heard enough. The unethical practices, the layoffs, the systemic mistreatment, they all need to stop, and is the one who can make it happen. His hands tremble slightly as he picks up the phone, dialing a number he's never used before. It's time to make his move. The man who was once invisible will now step into the light. He's no longer just a janitor. He's the person who can change the fate of this company, who can hold the corrupt to account. As Marcus hangs up, a feeling of quiet resolve settles over him. He can no longer be the silent observer. The power he's inherited is not a burden. It's a responsibility. The company may never know what hit it, but one thing is certain. The reign of the corporate elite is about to come to an end. And Marcus is the one who's going to end it. This isn't just about revenge. It's about righting the wrongs, about giving those who've been overlooked a voice, about standing up to the system that's so blinded by greed that it's forgotten the value of human dignity. Marcus's journey has only just begun, but one thing is clear. He's not just going to change the company. He's going to change everything. The day of the shareholders' meeting arrives, and the corporate headquarters of Hawthorne and Beck is bustling with the energy of the high-stakes event. The morning light streams through the glass windows of the building, casting long shadows across the sleek, polished floors. It's another busy day for Marcus, the janitor, but today, he's no longer just a quiet figure who goes unnoticed in the corners of the room. Today, he's a man with a purpose. As usual, Marcus pushes his cleaning cart down the long, sterile halls, moving in and out of rooms without being noticed. The executives stroll past him, laughing and chatting amongst themselves, oblivious to his presence. To them, he's just another invisible cog in the machine, someone who exists only to clean up after them, no more, no less. But today is different. Today, Marcus isn't just cleaning. Today, he's playing a role in a game he's been observing for far too long. As he moves through the hallways, a quiet storm brews within him. The weight of his decision, of what he's about to do, hangs heavily on his shoulders. The power he holds in his hands, the knowledge of all the wrongdoings, the evidence he's gathered over the years, it's time to reveal it. The boardroom doors open, and the executives begin to file in, their faces lit up with self-assured confidence. They pass Marcus without a second glance, settling into their seats, chatting about profits and quarterly reports, oblivious to the man who's been cleaning up their mess for years. Marcus pushes his cart into the room, his movements calm and deliberate, as if it's just another part of the routine. But beneath the surface, he's a man about to change everything. He walks to the back of the room, lingering for a moment as the executives settle into their seats. The chatter continues, but Marcus's mind is sharp, focused. The time for silence is over. The time for action has come. As the last executive takes his seat, Marcus slowly wheels his cart toward the head of the table. The room quiets, as if sensing the shift in the air. The executives, distracted by their own discussions, barely register the janitor's presence at first. But as Marcus stops at the head of the table, the sudden stillness in the room is palpable. The sound of his cart rolling to a stop echoes in the silence, and every eye turns toward him. With steady hands, Marcus reaches down and grabs the thick folder he's been holding. It's a folder brimming with documents, evidence of unethical practices, secret deals, mistreatment of employees, and every shady action that has ever passed through the walls of this company. His fingers brush the smooth surface of the folder, a quiet reminder of the power he holds, of the long years he spent collecting the proof that will bring it all crashing down. The executives watch, confused at first, but their confusion is quickly replaced with suspicion as Marcus sets the folder down with a heavy thud on the table. His eyes meet theirs, and the room falls into a tense, suffocating silence. Marcus doesn't flinch. His voice is calm, measured, but there's an undeniable authority behind it. "I am Marcus Wells," he begins, his voice cutting through the stillness. "And I am the majority shareholder of Hawthorne and Beck." There's a beat of stunned silence. The room is frozen. The executives too stunned to speak, their faces filled with disbelief. Some of them glance at each other, as if wondering if they heard him correctly. The janitor, the man who's cleaned their floors for years, the man who's always been invisible. Here's the majority shareholder. Marcus allows the silence to linger, watching their shock unfold. The looks of confusion, the disbelief in their eyes. He's waited for this moment, and now, it's finally here. He continues, his voice unwavering. "For years, I've watched as you've mistreated employees, made unethical decisions, and undermined everything this company once stood for. I've gathered everything I need to expose you." He opens the folder and begins laying out the evidence, documents, emails, records of shady business deals, proof of layoffs and mistreatment, all of it, right there in front of them. Each document is a testament to their failure, a reminder that they've ignored the very people who made the company what it is. The power dynamics are shifting in real time. The tables have turned, and the executives who once held the keys to the kingdom are now staring down the consequences of their actions. This, Marcus says, his voice rising just enough to make it clear that he's not just speaking to them, but to the system they've created. This is what you've built. A system that rewards greed and punishes the very people who made this company thrive. You thought I was just a janitor, someone who didn't matter. But I've been watching. I've been listening. And now, I'm going to make sure you answer for everything. The room is silent now, the weight of Marcus's words settling over everyone. The executives look at each other, their arrogance replaced with fear and uncertainty. They had underestimated him, ignored him, dismissed him as nothing more than a faceless employee. But now, they see him for what he truly is. A man with power, a man with control, a man who can bring everything they built crashing down. For years, they held the reins. Now, it's his turn. The shift in power is palpable. The executives, once so confident and untouchable, now sit at the mercy of the very system they've created. Marcus stands tall at the head of the table, a man who was once invisible but who now has the power to change the course of this company and their lives forever. The room is thick with tension, every eye locked on the documents spread across the table. Marcus stands tall at the head of the boardroom, his presence undeniable. The executives, once so accustomed to ruling with impunity, now seem small in comparison to the weight of the evidence he has just laid bare. The air feels heavy as the first set of documents hits the table, the proof of inflated expense reports, numbers that don't add up, figures that tell a story of greed and manipulation. The next documents reveal secret meetings, deals made behind closed doors, signed in the dark, without the knowledge of the very people who built this company. Then, the layoffs, the systematic cutting of employees, often for no reason at all, other than to pad the pockets of the already wealthy. The camera pans to the faces of the executives, some red-faced in anger, others pale with shock. Gerald Harris, the CEO, sits at the head of the table, his once confident demeanor shattered. His eyes dart from one document to the next, his lips moving but no words escaping. This isn't what he expected. Marcus, the janitor, the man he had overlooked for years, the one he mopped behind closed doors, is now the one exposing everything. Marcus steps forward, his eyes locked on the CEO. "This is just a beginning," he says, his voice steady, yet carrying the weight of every injustice is witnessed in this building. He lets the silence settle before continuing. The company's success has come at the expense of its workers. Corruption, greed, and abuse of power. This is your legacy. And it ends today. The room goes quiet again, the silence so thick it's almost suffocating. The executives glance at each other, unsure of how to respond, the reality of the situation sinking in. They never imagined that someone like Marcus could hold this much power. They thought they were untouchable, above reproach. But now, they realize they've been playing with fire, and the fire is now at their door. Gerald Harris, his face now contorted in anger, slams his hand on the table. "This is ridiculous," he shouts, his voice rising in frustration. "You think you can just walk in here and—" But Marcus cuts him off, his voice unwavering. "You don't get to talk anymore. You've had your chance." He pauses, allowing the room to digest his words. "You have two choices, Gerald. You can change your ways, reform this company, treat your employees with the respect they deserve. Or," he leans in, his tone colder, sharper, "I will remove you all from this company. Every last one of you." The board sits in stunned silence. Gerald Harris glares at Marcus, his face reddening with a mix of disbelief and fury. The shock of the moment has left the room frozen. Harris has always been the one in control, always the one barking orders, always the one with the final say. But now, he's not even in charge of his own fate. Marcus looks around the room, his gaze slow and deliberate. "I have the power to take this company back to what it was supposed to be. A company built on trust, respect, and fairness for every single person who works here, no matter their title. Or, he straightens, his voice hardening, I can burn this place down with one word. Your choice. Harris, now visibly shaking, opens his mouth to argue, but the words don't come. The board members look at each other, their confidence crumbling. They've spent years building a fortress around themselves. But now, it's Marcus standing at the gates. Marcus doesn't blink. He's not just a janitor anymore. He's a boss. And today, they will either face the consequences of their actions or be swept away in the tide of change he's bringing with him. One by one, the executives exchange glances. Their empire, built on manipulation and neglect, is now on the brink of collapse. It's no longer just about business deals or numbers. It's about power. And for the first time, they realize they've lost it. The CEO, unable to maintain his composure any longer, stands up, his hands gripping the edge of the table. You can't do this, he mutters, his voice barely above a whisper. But Marcus doesn't flinch. He knows the truth. The time for playing nice is over. Watch me, Marcus replies, his voice cold and final. Marcus walks down the hallway, the soft sound of his footsteps echoing through the once empty space. As he passes each office, employees pause their work, offering nods of respect, smiles of gratitude. There's no more silence between them, no more distance. They approach him now, shaking his hand, thanking him for the changes he's brought about, for showing them that they matter. The camera focuses on a group of lower-level employees huddled together, talking excitedly about the new opportunities for growth, the fairness of the new pay structure, the transparency of the company's leadership. Their faces are lit up with hope, something that had been missing from the office for so long. The energy is different now, more open, more human. Where once there was tension and fear, now there's collaboration, understanding, and a shared vision for the future. The camera follows Marcus as he moves through the open office space, past desks now filled with workers who no longer feel invisible. The atmosphere has shifted. There's a sense of empowerment in the air. The walls of the office, which once felt like cold, indifferent structures, now seem to reflect the warmth of the culture Marcus has fostered. Marcus's journey from the invisible janitor, cleaning up after a system that ignored him, to the powerful leader who reshaped that very system, proves one truth: no one is truly powerless. When you stand up against injustice, when you refuse to remain silent in the face of wrong, you hold the power to change the world. The camera zooms in on Marcus's face, his eyes full of quiet pride. His once humble role now seems like a distant memory. He's not just a janitor anymore. He's the embodiment of change. A leader. A symbol of resilience. Never underestimate the quiet strength of those who are overlooked. Because sometimes, the most powerful forces are the ones you least expect. As Marcus steps into his new office, one that overlooks the building he once worked in, one that now reflects his vision, a sense of peace settles over him. He's done what he set out to do. He's not just survived the system. He's transformed it. And now, as the sun sets over the city, he can finally breathe easy knowing that the battle for justice is far from over, but it's one he's ready to lead. Change starts with the courage to challenge the status quo. And Marcus has shown us that no matter who you are or where you start, you can make a difference. If Marcus's story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real stories about resilience, justice, and the fight against systemic oppression. Have you ever felt invisible in your own life or workplace? Share your story in the comments below. Let's start a conversation about how we can all challenge injustice in our own ways. Together, we can make change happen. The camera pulls back, the city skyline visible through the window as the office fades into a soft glow. Marcus's journey is far from over, but the world is watching. And change, it seems, is just getting started.